So legacy is not really what you think it is. At least it wasn't for us. Now, I've heard a lot of people bash the word legacy, and I understand why they do. When I ask people to describe legacy, they often give me more selfish type answers, like to make a ton of money to give to my family when I'm not here. Or they just want people to remember their name forever. But really, that's not how I think of legacy at all. For me, it's about making a huge impact in the world by changing the lives of millions of people because of my passion for helping others, whether they remember my name or not. It's also about creating powerful memories and sharing principles with my family that will change my lineage forever. That is what legacy means to me. But how can you create that kind of legacy? Why is it so hard? And what are some of the strategies we're personally learning from some of the most powerful leaders on the planet right now to help us get there? And also, what pitfalls do we need to watch out for so we don't burn ourselves out or sacrifice the things most important to us on the journey? That's what we are having a conversation about today. If you're ready to create that powerful legacy for you, your family, and the world along with us, let's go. It's time to redefine leadership. Welcome to Modern Leadership, where we see things differently. Our channel is all about empowering entrepreneurs like you to achieve the next level of success in business and life. We believe that you can create a massive impact in the world without compromising your personal life or family time to do so.
We're committed to providing you with actionable tips and strategies weekly to make that possible. So if you're ready to become a modern leader and make a lasting difference in the world, consider subscribing. Turn on notifications and dive into our community. We want to thank you for being here because the world needs your leadership now more than ever. Let's go. Okay, so what does legacy actually mean?
Okay, so I looked this up in the dictionary. So legacy is an amount of money or property left to someone in a will. It's also the long-lasting impact of particular events, actions, etc. that took place in the past or of a person's life. So I feel like legacy is something that people can kind of find as being selfish. And there are parts of that that can actually be true. But when I think of legacy, I think of something that I read in The Power of One More by Ed Mylett. He talks about being the one. And what he means is like, everybody has somebody in their family that is the one. It's the person that changes the financial situation, the principles in the family. Like literally, they are willing to do the hard things that it takes to step up and change the trajectory of not only their life, but their kids' lives forever. And when I think about that, when I think about being the one, that's what I consider like being a legacy. It's like, you don't necessarily need to know that person's name, but you know that they have touched your life. You know that they have helped change and bring out like the best version of you, but you don't necessarily need to give them kudos or remember their name for that specific reason. It's the lasting impact they leave when they're no longer here, whether or not people remember your name.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. It's the impact that you make. I think legacy and impact kind of are interchangeable because it's really about the changes that you make, like the sacrifices that you make or the hard things that you do that create that impact or that ripple effect that transcends generations.
So why do you think creating legacy is such a hard thing?
I think it's because people might think it's like a huge burden, right? Because when you really think about it, it's like you're not necessarily living in the present. You are living in the present, but you're also thinking about the future and what you do now and how it's going to impact future generations. So I think there might be that feeling of burden that someone can have.
It kind of sounds like we make it to be like such a big thing that we aren't like actually reverse engineering it into the tiny actions it takes to create a legacy, right? It just feels like so much like, oh my God, how am I going to be able to do that? Instead of, what we do as life and performance coaches, which is beginning with the end in mind and thinking about what's the smallest action you can take today that will positively move you in that direction. I feel like when it comes to like legacy, the reason why it's so hard is because I think a lot of people think about it, just like we were talking about in the beginning, it's kind of like a selfishness kind of piece where when we can convince ourselves that we're doing something for selfish reasons, it won't get us to take the actions that we need to take for long enough to create that level of legacy, right? So when you're talking about, I want to make a ton of money, or I want to be able to like everybody to remember my name, it feels super selfish to say that. And yeah, I guess to some degree it could be if that's all you're focusing on. But remember, in order to make an impact, in order to make a legacy, you're impacting people's lives forever. And when you realize that that's the case, you can tap into that, because I really feel like this word legacy is something that we have been talking a lot about, not only on the channel, but sort of as like our universal principle that we always think things through, because we want to be able to make a huge impact for the world, but we also want to be able to take care of our family. We also want to be able to sustain ourselves, get enough sleep, and really focus on excelling at it all, right? But it's this thought of like, if I do this, I'm giving up either other important areas of my life, or I have to give up other important areas, or it's selfish. And so we can very easily consider ourselves not to put in the work that it takes, right? Because it's like a selfish kind of feeling. So when we can reframe that, when we can think about the fact that when we make money as business owners, we're doing so by making a positive impact in the world. We're helping change people's lives. At least I know that's all of what you guys are doing out there right now. There are other companies and businesses and stuff that don't lead with that, but I feel like we have a really good flow of really powerful, impactful leaders who are here on this channel, who are literally taking those actions and doing it from a place of service. And also, I hope you make a ton of money for your family too, because I think that's the kind of impact that we're making in the world. Like, I know we talk about this a lot, is like, being a leader is not just when things are easy. Being a leader is like when things are tough. It's the same as being an entrepreneur. We're literally there to lead people through problems, a lot of times problems that we've gone through. But like, if we're like, can convince ourselves not to do that, that's really where I feel like we have the biggest opportunity, is like when we instead think of obstacles and struggles as something that, oh man, I don't want to have to go through this. Think of it as, this is the greatest opportunity for you to prove that you truly want to make an impact in the world. And when you're willing to do that, when you're willing to go through it, right? Like they say, go through the suck, you'd be amazed at like how many people want your help to get there. And that's what I really feel is like creating a legacy, by doing it in an authentic way, but also reminding yourself that it's not just selfish. It's not just about you. And like Zig Ziglar says, like, if you help enough people get what they want, then you can have anything that you want. And I really feel like that is the epitome of legacy. All right, so I have a question for you. So can you share a pivotal moment in your life that shaped your perspective on legacy?
Yeah, so this may not be a positive thing, but it did help me understand something that I didn't want to pass on, or I didn't want to repeat. And this is my parents going through a divorce. So this is something that I know that Mark has experienced as well. And it really kind of shaped the way I wanted to lead my life. And because I saw my parents struggling and eventually separating and divorcing, I didn't want, when I had a family, I didn't want to actually have my kids go through that, because I know the negative impact it had on me. Now, of course, I'm not saying that divorce is negative and you should never do it. Some people just don't match, and that is totally fine. That is not something that I'm like saying that you shouldn't do. The thing is that for me, I saw that as a learning experience.
Yeah, you know, when you say that, like, I also remember a lot of things that I personally have gone through, which is the exact reason why I want to create something different. And I agree with you. Like, I don't feel like it's right or fair to like blame our parents. I often think about like the fact that I'm going to be passing on negative things to my kids. And I even know I'm trying not to, right? It's just something that I think we do from generation to generation, right? Sometimes we over baby them and then the opposite comes to be true, or sometimes we let them do too much and it's just the nature of the beast, right? But yeah, I find that a lot of the things that I wanted to create when it comes to my family had to do with the situations that I went through when I was a kid, right? And it feels like a lot of times there is that pain that is associated with it, right? Where you're like, I'm no longer willing to make my family deal with the same things that I've been through before. And that is what I feel like makes everyone the one, right? It makes you the one to be the person to go like, I'm not willing to be comfortable. I'm not willing to like pretend like it doesn't exist or just say, this is just the way that I turned out. But I'm willing to like step in and to do the hard work that it takes to make things different. And I think that is a super noble thing. Of course, we got to take action when it comes to like not only the words that we're saying, but I also feel like it is once again, another great opportunity to change the future forever, right? Because you are now setting the example of what you want rather than setting the example of what you don't want.
Yeah, and I do want to say something, because people might think that we're talking about like kind of breaking that generational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of people have heard that term, and I don't think that's what it is necessarily. I mean, it could be a part of it, but I think it's more of like, okay, I'm here on this earth right now. How do I want to leave my mark, mm-hmm. right? And not just within my family, but with the world, right?
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. Love it. Okay, good. Next question. What strategies have you employed to building a lasting legacy?
Wait. Can I ask you the question?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Is this my interview?
I felt like you're in the hot seat.
Okay.
Maybe that was a I went into detective mode.
Okay, so I have a question for you. What are some of the strategies that you've implemented to actually build lasting legacy?
Good question. Great question. So, like obviously, I have not created the legacy that I want to create yet. I'm in the process of doing that right now. So I don't want to lead with like, oh, I perfected this kind of thing. But there are a couple things that I've learned from some powerful leaders about creating legacy. Of course, I talked about Ed Milet and really that power of being the one, right? And realizing the impact that you can make, not only for yourself, but for the family and for the world, right? And that's one thing that I remind myself of too. As a life and performance coach, one of the things that I do for my clients, and it helps me to do it for myself, is to remind myself that everything that I do will make an impact for myself, for the family, and for the world. And so am I showing up in the way that is making a positive contribution in all three of those things? And the answer is not always. But I do remind myself, like to give myself grace on days where I just don't feel like it, whether it's like I'm writing down in my journal or talking about like, hey, what are some things that I did really well that day? What are some things I would do differently? And just always striving to become like better and better and better. So what I always try to remind myself is kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning. And it's like, it's the small things that you do over time that actually build up to create that level of legacy, right? And there was this process that I went through. Now I got it. There's this process I went through when I went through the Dad Edge Mastermind, which was a business mastermind for fathers and for people who wanting to become better husbands and better fathers while increasing their business growth and really focusing on their health. And one of the things they did was to have you write out your eulogy. And it was one of those things where I've never seen so many grown men cry. But when you picture your family, whether it's your wife, your kids, up there giving your final eulogy, what you meant to them, what were some things you did that they remembered, it is a game changer because you realize where the gap is, where you are right now and where you want to be when that happens. And I feel like the beautiful part is like, we still have that opportunity right now because we're still alive, right? So being able to begin with the end in mind, right? And thinking about like when you're no longer here, how do you want people to remember you and what kind of impact you want to have made? Now you can see based off of where you're living right now, the actions you're taking, is it in alignment with what you truly want or not? And I remind myself of that. It's actually something that I look at the bottom of my goals. I don't look at it every day when I'm not feeling like getting after it that day, when I don't feel motivated, when I'm not excited, when I'm not like as high energy as I can be sometimes. I scroll down and I review that and I look at and think about this through the eyes of my kids giving it or Teresa giving it. And it really is a game changer when you're able to reframe it that way. So that's something that I do to remind myself of why I'm working so hard, why I'm putting in that action and energy, and why I'm making sure that I don't just do it in one area of my life, but multiple areas of my life.
All right. So what advice would you want to give other entrepreneurs who want to build a lasting legacy?
I love that question. So as a life coach, like we said a million times already in this video, is like beginning with the end in mind. So thinking about the legacy that you do want to create. And here on this channel, we are not just all about creating massive business success, right? So we've got to look at the lens through your specific lens of what you truly want. For us, it's about creating incredible relationships with our family, which my son has walked up and down the stairs about 10 times today. And I promise we're going to hold it together. But like creating like a really deep connection with them and helping instilling things in them that we never got instilled in us when we were younger, but doing it so that we can set them up for massive success. At the same time, creating massive success in our business because we want to make a huge impact in the world. We want people to see that they don't have to just excel in one area. They can excel in multiple areas if you're willing to look at things differently, which is what we always talk about here, right? But then also doing so without having to sacrifice yourself, your hobbies, the things that you enjoy the most. You can 100% excel at all of that if you're willing to like lean in and to create that life for you. But you have to begin with the end in mind. Paint a beautiful picture of what legacy would look like for you when you're no longer here. What are people going to say? What kind of impact have you made? Like how proud are your kids, are your parents? Like you really want to go all the way to the end and just take a look at that, because when you do, now you can reverse engineer it to actually figure out what it takes to get there. So many people, when they set goals, when they think about things they want to achieve, they look at what everybody else has and makes a decision based off of that. And that is not the way to do it. Yes, being around other people who like share your same core values is really important, but don't forget, like you're going to put in the action and the energy to make this happen. So why would you want to, like they say, settle for the second-rate version of someone else when the best version of you is always available? And it's the same with your goals. Don't settle for somebody else's goals. Settle for your best version of goals. And so I like to always take my clients through this, like this exercise where I'm like, I want you to think about what your life could look like if you just woke up and you put in all the action, all the energy, you created this legacy. Like, what would your life look like? Paint a picture for me. And the way that people describe it in terms of where they're at, who they're having conversations with, where they go on vacation, all of these things, all of these details help you laser focus in on what are the actions, the smallest actions that I can take to create those results. And it's not this big thing. It's just a decision that you make of, I'm going to every day take 2 or 3 small steps towards building my legacy and continue to do this until it actually happens. And I do have to say, like, how proud I am that you're willing to fight this fight. I mean, even making it here to this video, legacy must be incredibly important to you. And we want to say hats off to that. Thank you for being an important part of this community. If you're not subscribed to the channel, definitely subscribe, because it's powerful when you surround yourself with a group of people who want legacy, want growth, and want impact just as much as you do. Now, there's one huge final part around creating a legacy that we don't want to leave you hanging with. And that is, like, when you are in this creation mode, how can you make sure that you balance both the time that you're spending with your family and your business? Did you know that your business can actually bring you closer to your family? It can be extremely frustrating if you're working to create this legacy, and as a result, it actually puts a wedge in between you, your significant other, and your kids. But don't worry, because we got you covered on this one. Tap the screen to watch the next video. Balancing business and family time. Thank you for being here and doing what you do out there every single day. And above all, keep leading from the front, leaders. Bye.
Bye.